problems during the Washington era, 1790s. We're going to pay attention to this cartoon with George Washington, the Constitution, this bottle which says no whiskey tax in Pennsylvania whiskey in 1794 very carefully. On your handout, do the best you can to keep up with the notes. Hit pause as needed. Here goes. We know that Alexander Hamilton had created a plan to pay off the war debt. Not everybody liked it. One of his jobs was to, or plan parts was to raise money for the war debt to pay it off. Okay. One thing they did was they taxed whiskey. Whiskey was something that farmers bartered. Remember, barter means to trade a good for a good. This gave them extra income. So when the farmers were taxed on this, they felt the hurt really bad, and it wouldn't benefit them, right? It actually hurt them poorly because they were paid once a year at harvest time. So the farmers revolted in anger. In 1794, a bunch of farmers in Pennsylvania revolted against the federal government to try to stop the tax. They set up tax collecting. The government did in that year. And the farmers used swords, guns, and pitchforks and tar and feathering to burn down buildings to stop the tax collection. Some success was made, but it wouldn't last forever. Bottling up the whiskey rebellion. Now we're going to study and answer this, answer about 4 questions about this cartoon, so you get some of the main points on the next slide. Here we go. Okay, we're going to analyze the cartoon. Like I said, here's the first part. What labels or phrases are within the cartoon, and what do they mean? Well, first we see Pennsylvania on there, obviously the state that this took place in, and we see no whiskey tax. So those are some of the phrases that we see. We also see the Constitution, but I'm going to save that as an item in the next list. All right, so what objects do we see? George Washington, we see a bottle of whiskey, and we see the Constitution. And we see little people, if you look very carefully, in there, which are the farmers being bottled up or stopped. All right, why is this cartoon important? Well, this cartoon is super important because it shows that Washington, with the Constitution's power as executive, can stop a rebellion using force. So what Washington does after a few months of this happening is he marches with an army. Yes, the President of the United States marches over the Appalachian Mountains and leads our country to put down the rebellion. The farmers are shocked. They can't believe what's happening. And they just leave. They leave without a shot being fired, and that's it. The risky rebellion is really over. They took it as a very serious move, and they knew the government meant business because they respected George Washington. So what did this do? It created a new precedent. Remember, that means tradition. Government can use force to stop problems. Okay? So we can kind of see that George Washington's look of determination to shut that down does just that. On to the next page. All right, there were other struggles going on in the United States at the time. People would ignore the Native Americans' rights, all right, to go out west. I said that wrong. Americans ignored the natives' rights and moved out west despite treaties like the Proclamation of 1763. And in so doing, natives tried to find a solution to stop this invasion of their land. So Washington had to retaliate, right? You protect your country and you protect its citizens. So he sends an army over into the Northwest Territory. And remember, this is a place that was formed for or under the Articles of Confederation. So we have our 5 states, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin right here. So people kept moving out there. And remember, there was a way for new states to be admitted to the Union through that. So that's why people were moving out there. The government kind of encouraged it. They wanted to grow farms and expand them. All right. The natives end up badly beating at the Wabash River. Don't need to know that. But the British, here's what you do need to know. The British actually support the natives' efforts, thinking, ooh, if the natives win and are successful, I can come back over in this country and establish my foothold. All right. In the Battle of Fallen Timbers, that hope ended. In the Ohio area, right here, the U.S. Army finally defeats the natives' chance of holding their land. And they do it with a treaty. So they sign their land away, and Americans basically flood the Northwest from there. That's part 1.